thank you very much, Dr. Aghan, for welcoming us to be able to have this conversation with you.
Yes.
And generally, what we want to be able to achieve with this conversation is to be able to champion entrepreneurship as
Yes.
a source of doing good,
Yes.
and by extension to be able to influence the ecosystem of entrepreneurship by learning through your story and other entrepreneur stories, so that we are able to change the narrative of entrepreneurship and also raise the bar
Absolutely.
of entrepreneurship, and then engage other influencers, policymakers, so that we're able to drive this spirit of entrepreneurship to the next level.
Right.
So we will start by asking generally you to tell us about yourself,
Absolutely.
in terms of what you do and who you are generally.
Thank you, Eric. Hello, viewers. My name is Dr. Aghan Oscar, and I am a serial entrepreneur. Serial entrepreneur with various interests ranging in plastic, ranging in energy, ranging in food processing, and equipment fabrication. My background is health related. I trained as an epidemiologist many years back, and I've worked in a number of hospitals in the healthcare industry, and I've later moved on into manufacturing and fabrication. An epidemiologist is one who studies the rate at which diseases transfer. We take care of epidemics. We actually preventive experts in healthcare management. So we look at incidences that might generate epidemics like cholera, COVID, malaria, what could be a deadly outspread, to be tamed to an extent where the living population within a geographical area lives safe. So our duty is to prevent diseases from spreading, and that is what I trained as. And then later, I also trained as a project manager because a lot of my work touched on projects. Actually, I am a certified master project manager and a fellow at the American Academy of Project Management. Now, with this combination and background, even though I have a healthcare management background, my interest and my aspirations have been more in engineering. And that is why I've found myself in massive engineering. And by nature, I am an innovator. As you realize that social entrepreneurship is involved in turning social challenges into social opportunities. Now, when we look at the fields I am in, broadly, it is waste management. But waste is wide. Waste is quite wide.
Before you go further, Dr.
Yes.
I just wanted to understand what inspired you to be able to get into engineering, given the fact that you have said you are an epidemiologist.
Yes.
And you started by getting into, you had this passion or interest that was pulling you towards engineering.
Absolutely.
What was it that was pulling you towards that?
It's an inspiration that came by accident, even during my college days. I actually wanted to be an engineer. But you see, during our days, there are not so many opportunities. When you're called to do a specific course, you can't change midway. You couldn't. You just had to go on with the course. So you end up doing exactly not what you want, but you do what your parents want, which is a common misnomer in the common society. So we did what our parents wanted us to do, because my mother is a nurse, my grandfather was a medical officer. And it's what they loved at that time. But that's not exactly where my inspiration was. My inspiration was in engineering, because even during my youth days, I used to have very funny imaginations of fabricating my toy cars, fabricating my agricultural equipment. And by then, I'd not even owned a welding machine. So when I started, I had a friend who I was offering a medical service to, who was quite sick, and he had a welding machine. So he had an oil-cooled welding machine, and the guy was a musician, a popular musician. Then they didn't have how to compensate me. So they left that welding machine with me. And at that time, I'd known, or I had a few friends in Kariobangi who would go visiting once in a while over the weekends. So as I visited, I saw massive opportunity, because it is an area where there's a lot of skill. Now, backed with an oil-cooled heavy-duty welding machine that I was left by my patient, I decided to take it to use. That welding machine is there to date. It's given birth to 14 factories and other 10 welding machines, because we also even now make welding machines. Now, that gave me an inspiration to go into equipment fabrication, or hardware fabrication, making windows. In the 90s, making posho mills was a big deal. So we started with posho mills, went into windows, went into grills, went into burglary proofs, gates. Then we went into machinery. Now, the machineries that we made were basically food processing machines, like the huller, the crusher, the posho mill. Now, later in the year 2000,
So this is the beginning.
that's the beginning. That's where the engineering bug hit me.
So that you began with this welding machine.
Yeah, I started with the welding because I had a tool already.
Yes.
I had a tool that I only needed to buy. I only bought a grinder and a drill.
Then I was complete. By this time, have you left the field of medicine completely?
No. I would leave hospital every weekend to go to Kariobangi, and I had rented a small space where every evening in the evening I'll go and try pick up 1, 2, 3 orders. I had people, I'd already employed even a few who were working for me, and would bring in the youth who would train and later become artisans. Because it's not a job that you really have to stand there, but once you have a design, then you can come back in the evening and you find the window, you get the posho mill already done. So as I realized that a lot of people who were retiring at that time, I'm talking about the 1998, 1999, had a lot of interest in posho mills. Then I focused a lot of my energy on fabricating posho mills at that time. But there was a challenge also that Kariobangi is not a very clean place. It's littered with all sorts of litters, but a lot of it is plastic. So in my process, when I would walk along the streets of Kariobangi, I'll see a lot of plastic, and a bag would hit me like, what should I do with the plastic? So a lot of chokoras will also come next to the workshop to try and collect the bottles. So every time they collect those sacks that are full of bottles and plastic, I'll pay them a small token and they leave them with me. Because I had a vision of one day recycling plastic.
But before you go further, Daktari,
Right.
I wanted to understand something here.
Right.
At that particular time when you began by fabricating posho mills and selling to people who were retiring at that particular time,
Right,
to open their own businesses in terms of milling posho at different places.
Yes, yes.
At this particular time, you were being financed by the job that you were doing.
Exactly, because the model was simple. You keep a saving, maybe you were earning enough money to even save. So what we would do is given that this was a part-time thing, I had my basic tools, and I would make a posho meal and sell at a reasonable profit. Then whatever profits, given that I don't really have to use those profits, but I would use my savings. That is how I grew my company, Aghan Oscar and Company, from a mere small machine fabricator to a conglomerate that it is today. Financing wasn't a real issue at start because I was employed. Now, as it grew and the orders kept growing, then there was need to generate external funding to complement what I had invested. Not that I was carrying profits home, but all the profit that I'll make out of a sale of an equipment would go back to buying more stock, the iron sheets, the material to build the next posho mill.
By this time, a posho mill costs how much in the market?
At that time, the posho mill was about 100,000, 90,000. We were selling them between 100 and, depending on the capacity. There were those that would do 2 bags an hour. There were those that would do 4 bags an hour. There was those that would do 6 bags up to 10. So it will depend. You'll try and tailor the kind of output to what your customer would want. And then it was a funny model where basically it's the customer who would pay a deposit with the little stocks of raw material we have to get him a whole posho mill. And a lot of the skills and expenses there were basically on raw material and minimally on labor, because Kariobangi has a lot of what you call artistic skills. But it is a business that grew from an idea to what it is today. Today it runs a massive engineering area. We've got the lathe machines, we've got the milling machines, we've got the bending machines, we've got different types of modern, what you call metalwork equipment, like the MIG welders and the gas welders, that we can do any. So that is the foundation that came in very strongly until 2014. It was in a small scale when we'd tried other investors to come in. But one investor, a philanthropic investor that we met in 2014 and 2015 was the Tony Elumelu. You see, he is a philanthropic investor who comes in and looks at your idea and goes through a process and gives you that kind of grant without any strings attached. That gave us a real acceleration in what we did, because there was a training process that we'll go for almost 6-8 months on how to prepare a business plan, look at whether we are bankable, look at a sustainable business plan. Then we also had a chance to visit him in Nigeria. That gave us a real inspiration, because we were the first lot in 2015. Yeah, we were the first lot in Africa that had that opportunity. And it's going on even currently. And it is an inspiration that we pray that there could be a lot more Tony Elumelus in this continent, rich people who want to grow social entrepreneurship across the